All right. This time, I guess you could call this Schrodinger's game instead of just a dead game. It's dead, but it's still alive. This is the original version that I remember very well and stands as my favorite game. Legend of Five Rings, both card game, which came out in 1995, and had promos that predated a lot of things. And then we have the role-playing game that first came out in 1997. Had a really unique idea. They tried as many unique ideas as possible. Like when you got a box, the box came with the clan you were going to play. So, but it was also player influenced. Whenever they had a storyline tournament, the players of that tournament would determine things that actually occurred in the game. It would actually have a further effect. For the most part, it had its criticism, but it was very innovative at the time. It had a whole different way of playing the game than you usually found in the early card games that came out. A lot of card games had an emphasis on, like, you fight each other, your creatures either attack each other or they attack you or whatnot. This one was about building and running a kingdom. And you had provinces you had to defend from your enemy. You could go after an enlightenment victory, in which case you show that you were superiorly enlightened. Or you can go for an honor victory, which showed you had greater honor than anybody else. Or you could just fight it out. And a lot of people did fight it out, but honor and enlightenment was a very cool aspect. The fact you could win 3 different ways. Plus there were different cards in the game that if you collected those cards and played them in a certain order, they would also allow you to win the game. So I really liked L5R. I still do. So when it comes to L5R, it was supposed to be short run. It was supposed to only exist from 1995 to 1997, and then it was going to stop. The only expectation is that they'd have those storyline tournaments at the end of that. They would end the Legend of the Five Rings storyline, and then they would make new, different games on the same kind of premise. In the beginning, we had 6 clans to start with, though they did tease 2 more clans, which we got during this expansion. The first clans were... This is a Dragon Clan deck. They also had the Lion, the Crane, the Crab, the Phoenix, and the Unicorn. They added the Naga and the Scorpion with this. Of course, there were Shadowlands cards sneaking all throughout, but that didn't become a major player until later. So yeah, the first set ever released was the pre-Imperial. This is Imperial Edition, the first set that was actually released in stores. Pre-Imperial was released in conventions. This is the second set to be released in stores, and this is the original box I bought from that set. Notice how old and dingy it is, and the fact it's taped together to stay in one piece. Yeah, I actually carried this and a few other boxes and unopened booster packs through the snow so that me and my friend could, get playing into L5R. It was a really, really good time then. The card game expanded in some interesting ways. They would introduce new factions with different expansions that came out. So we started with 6 clans, but we got the Naga and we got the Scorpion. Then we had the Shadowlands and Totori's army. Then we had the monks and the mantis. Some of those would stay around for a while. Some of them would not. They released a Obsidian Edition, which was kind of a change. These packs were double wide because they stacked the cards on the bottom. They had a full-sized rulebook in there, and I believe this one's actually pretty much the original. Yeah, let me just open it up. So yeah, you look inside, you can see it's got like the cards on one side, a full large-sized rulebook. Let me yank this thing out. Whoop. Come on, guys. Oh, there's more than that in there. Okay, this was something I put in there. Here's the rulebook for Obsidian Edition. And they gave you, lo and behold, a card checklist to check off all the cards that you had or had not. So that was pretty cool. And they gave you tokens. They were small tokens too. That's what I really liked about the old edition is they tried to make things, fun and convenient for you. And so for the Obsidian Edition, which came out during the same time, I think it was the same time that Crimson and Jade set was released. They released Obsidian Edition, and it was the first time they had released starter sets like this. I don't think anybody released starter sets like this until this game came out. So So you had the wider starter set. They finished the game in 1997 with Time of the Void, which came with 2 clans, Phoenix or Crab. I have the glorious Crab clan here with their Great Wall. I love the fact that this one says you may not play Shadowlands cards. That's what the Crab should be doing, which is funny because it was player influenced. A lot of Crab clan players at the beginning of the game, they were just putting Shadowlands cards into their deck left and right. Of course, as the storyline progressed, we realized that Shadowlands were actually an evil, horrible influence and you shouldn't have them in your clan at all. But, you know, the game was started out, the people who started playing this game were just random gamers. They weren't special people. They were people who had picked up the game at that time. And so, of course, mistakes were made. The Crab Clan fixed that mistake so hard that most Crab Clan players have a hatred of the Shadowlands. It's really cool. That's one thing I like about L5R also is the personality. Like a Dragon Clan player may have a different personality altogether than a Crab Clan player. I love the fact that this game has things that are so personal and fun. And this was the original run. These are the original parts of the card game. I have a lot of stuff. They also released in 1996, they released a 2-player starter set. Not a usual thing to do for a card game, but they did it. And it's the Battle of Biden Pass. I think this is actually the original promo art for L5R 2, which has the champion of my clan, weirdly enough. That's Togashi Yokuni. He's a boss. This came with 2 decks, a Crab and a Dragon deck. They were the 2 parties fighting in the Battle of the Beaten Pass, despite the fact that the Dragon had Naga reinforcements, the Crab had Shadowlands allies, and Totori came in a little bit. He, I believe, took command of the Dragon Clan armies there, and he had a few Crane Clan and Unicorn Clan guys as his allies. But yeah, they released this. Now I can't unbox this. This has long been used to transport cards. It's beaten. I mean, if you look at the back of it, yeah, that is. I kind of want to now get a new copy of this so I can actually unbox it and show what the original's like. There is some good stuff in there. These pamphlets. You got like a story pamphlet. You did get a basic rule book, and of course cards. It was mostly just cardboard and printed paper. Nothing too special. No dice, no cup tokens. But this was really fun. I'm glad they released that. Another thing they made that they released the role-playing game, which is actually my favorite part of it. Now I have a ton of cards, but the role-playing game was unique. Before this, we had Dungeons and Dragons, and we had stuff like Vampire the Masquerade. This role-playing game actually inspired a lot of players because this was a very lethal game. You could die really quickly in the role-playing game of Legend of the Five Rings. And as a result of that, players started playing smarter. It's amazing how many wise role players started with some game, picked up L5R, and then during their role-playing career branched out into, doing really cool stuff. Legend of the Five Rings role-playing did outlast the original run of the card game. The role-playing game was always more amorphous, more ambivalent. It wasn't quite tied to a specific time in the setting. You could play whatever with the role-playing game. It was more ambiguous what you can do with it. I love this because that's actually art from Brahm. That's cool. The Way of the Shadowlands, the Book of the Shadowlands, sorry. There's actually 3 books of the Shadowlands. There's the Book of the Shadowlands, there's Bearers of Jade, then there is the Way of the Shadowlands, which is a 2nd edition product made by Wizards of the Coast. But I like the fact that it's got, I love the whole ambiance of it. And then, of course, you have each page is like a journal or something. So it has the journal parts in here. Various different horrible things you can encounter. The Shadowlands are like the primary enemy of the L5R setting. There is no greater evil than the Shadowlands, and every player who's played for a while knows that. The another thing, also based on the Shadowlands, I have the Tomb of Uchiban box set. This is the equivalent of like the Barrier Peaks or Tomb of Elemental Horrors, but for L5R. I never use this. If I ever do use it, I will warn my players beforehand, but this is designed to kill players. Oh look, this have dust on it. What do you know? So this is really fun. And the original stuff from the original run, 1995 to 1999 really, was really cool. Now, after 1997, they did a few things that were kind of weird with the card game. The role-playing game was just going along as normal, but they released the Scorpion Clan Coup, which I have a Scorpion Clan deck here. I think the only ones they released a Scorpion Clan, a Lion Clan, and they released somebody else. I forgot who it was. But the Lion Clan deck was actually really cool. I don't have the box for that, but I have the original cards for that. The Lion were actually really good. The Scorpion are really good in that set. This was released under a thing called the Rolling Thunder program. And no one liked the Rolling Thunder program from a sales perspective because it would do weird things to the game store side. Players actually were like, well, we want more rares and stuff like that. A lot of us liked it because we could just get cards. Like everybody that bought into this set had the cards needed to play the game. So that was kind of a cool thing. They also did this under the same thing. Hidden Emperor was done under the Rolling Thunder program as well. So they made these. And I think the last thing they made before Wizards of the Coast came along, here's the last, I'm so glad I have this, the last Hidden Emperor product is this beastie, the Dark Path of Shadow. The Dark Path of Shadow was their Ninja clan stronghold. The Ninja turned out weird. The Ninja and L5R are essentially, well, they can be humans with special traits, or they can be weird shape-shifting monsters from another dimension. And this was the point in the game where it really started to emphasize that. What's the date on this? Because when this was released, 1998, so yeah. This is one of the last things ever released from AEG proper, before Wizards of the Coast bought Legend of the Five Rings. As a result of Wizards of the Coast buying it, they released a thing called Pearl Edition. They changed the backs of the cards, the front of the cards were changed as well. I think the fronts changed first, and then they changed the back of the cards because of a legal suit that happened. But I move these out of the way so I can show you some stuff. When Wizards of the Coast got a hold of Legend of the Five Rings, they did continue the game on. We got some interesting things like Soul of the Empire. This is as bad as you'll ever see the Crane Clan looking. Thank God for Doji Kawanan. They usually don't look this awesome. But there's a Soul of the Empire set. Came out with Ambition's Debt. That's a Lion Clan set. I love Brian Snowdy's art. I have great respect for the man. He's just awesome. Talking about Brian Snowdy art. This is Fire and Shadow, the Dragon Clan, or Monk deck. It's the Dragon Clan deck. Has Togashi Hoshi in charge. Hoshi is the son of the champion I served under, Yokuni. So he's pretty cool. So the card game did continue on as normal, and had its path. Wizards of the Coast, of course, had their logo on these decks. There's on the bottom of this one and on the side of this one. So yeah. This is technically Wizards of the Coast product. AEG was, though, planning after a while. They thought about it and they decided to buy their setting back. So they did after a while. But during that time, let's talk about the role-playing game for a bit. There's the AEG logo and Wizards of the Coast logo combined. You have the Player's Guide and the GM's Guide for the second edition of the role-playing game. Now, the second edition of the role-playing game, I myself didn't like it at all. Now here's the thing, people did have their mixed opinions about it. It was based on skills primarily, so you only ever rolled your skill and you got to keep dice based on other statistics, like usually your main stats. But the original L5R is based off of the 1990s idea of a core book, where you have one solid book that's pretty much your gateway. This is all you really need to play L5R. But the funny thing is that you then have, this one is released more like the Dungeons and Dragons idea, where you have a Game Master's Guide versus a Player's Guide. And of course, you have to buy 2 books to play the second edition instead of having the core book, which is all you really needed to play the game. That was not the only weird thing that Wizards of the Coast did. Now, I actually kind of appreciate this product, but this has caused a lot of mixed opinions. See, when they came out with D&D 3rd edition, they released Oriental Adventures, and when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, they're bringing back Kara Tour, how awesome is that going to be? Well, as it turns out, where was it? L5R was the setting they had, not Kara Tour. So it's L5R and not Kara Tour. So when you play this, you have a bunch of references to Legend of the Five Rings things. Weird, right? Oh, especially weird. This stuff was designed to mix with the rest of the D&D product. AEG, because of the Open Gaming License, the OGL, they produce their own products too, which they never explicitly said, but you really weren't supposed to mix those. I have Rokugan here. Some of the things in this are broken in a D&D game. In an L5R game, you expect them to be there, but in a D&D game, no. D&D works off of one premise, L5R works off another one. D&D is an adventure game where you go through puzzles and dungeons. L5R is a societal game that's about kingdoms and cultures and building epic events. And so this didn't stack too well, and a lot of people have complained about what this caused as far as influence on D&D. A lot of people, I've talked to people at conventions, they outright ban this product. I'm okay with that since I have other things to play. As I mentioned, the people at AEG eventually got their puppy back. And when they did, they didn't waste time. Well, first of all, they did produce a thing called Gold Edition. Now, if you want to get some history on L5R, this is a good book to pick up. It's the guidebook for the cards for Gold Edition, but it's also and actually the first 20 pages, I think, are just the story of L5R. Yeah. It even talks about the different sets, pre-gold cards. Yeah, this entire section right here is at page 17, all the way to the beginning. This is all just the history of L5R. And so I recommend, if you're an L5R fan and you want to know more about the history, buy this book. It's probably out there cheap somewhere if you can find it. It doesn't do anything for the rest of the game either. Gold Edition, in my opinion, was actually kind of an underpowered. It and Diamond Edition were kind of underpowered and kind of hard to play, and I'd rather play anything else. But they did eventually make Lotus Edition. I don't have too much for it. It isn't scattered amongst the rest of my cards, but they actually they have the beautiful product thing coming back, where you have the box has that kind of great design to it that I've always liked. L5R has beautiful product. I like that a lot about L5R. So get this out of the way. They also released their version of the role-playing game. This took a while to come out. I think this came out in like 2005 or something. Let me check a date. No date. I picked up it in 2009, but that was a little bit out of the way. There's no date on that? There's no date on that. That's horrible. It's on the Wikipedia actually has a great article on L5R if you want actual correct information. But this was the role-playing game they came out with. Notice it says revised on here. I realize that now. I picked this up because they had to reprint the role-playing game because the first one was kind of a bit janky. So they just released a revised edition. I own both. I don't care. This is actually better than second edition. It goes off the core book idea too. So this is all you need to really play. But they really did release a bunch of good expansions for third edition. And so card game wise, they are also trying out various different things. After they released Lotus Edition, they released Samurai Edition, and I have a abominable, frightening beast here that reminds people of Samurai Edition. Samurai Edition was kind of an overpower and saw the rise of the Spider Clan. Here I have a Spider Clan deck. Spider Clan decks were known to be relatively dangerous beasts to encounter, but the Samurai Edition of the card game caused the power skill to creep up. On average, your average card in L5R would have like a 2-2 stat, and then maybe be like a 2-3 or a 3-2, and then have some special abilities. Depends. But in Samurai Edition, you started seeing a lot of 3-3s, 4-3s, 5-2s. The numbers started jumping up on average, like across the clans. That started to happen, and that carried over into other editions, but at that point the power scale had kind of reset. They wanted to make the game have more oomph and punch to it, I guess. And so what we have here is Spider from the Samurai Edition, and they released after that the Celestial Edition. Celestial Edition boxes were quite a bit different. You could get normal starter boxes. Yeah, I have one kicking around. Here's the Celestial Edition normal. That's just your ordinary normal deck box for the Dragon Clan, good old Dragon Clan. And of course they kept with having the really great design and that I love the overall beauty of the product. They kept that, the cards especially, went away from the graphic design they had during the older eras from like Gold Edition up until Samurai, and they actually went back to a design that looked better too. But it's one thing I actually like about L5R, it's a good looking product, so they went back to that. That's a deck box, but the actual booster boxes were pretty compact, and they're durable. I mean, this L5R box is made of several layers of compressed board. That's another thing I didn't do is show you the power of the Tumavuchi-ban box I showed earlier. The Tumavuchi-ban box was one of those corrugated printed juggernauts that this company, for some reason, whenever they made a box set for the L5R role-playing game in first edition, it was a tank. They were all made out of printed corrugated cardboard. These went back to that. They're kind of a really tough box. You can use the box to store things in. They did produce also a 4th edition of the Legend of the Five Rings role-playing game. And the 4th edition of L5R, the role-playing game, is in my opinion the best. It's not my personal favorite, but if people wanted to play L5R, this is a great one to play. And they've balanced a lot of things out. It still has that increased honor system that they introduced in the 3rd edition, but for the most part, it's also a core book. This is all you really need to play the game. So it keeps back to that original concept. And this, I think, was released in like 2000, when did I buy it? Did I put a date on this or something? I bought it in 2011, so this must have been released in 2010 or 2011. So, in any case, very solid book. I do like this one. And they even give you options to play the Spider Clan in here, as weird as that sounds. They're in the bad guys section, so you have to actually, you can make them as NPCs like they're designed to, or you can run them as an actual player character set. Well, one thing about Legend of the Five Rings is this version of L5R was going to come to an end, and it was during the 2012, 2013, we started to see the last bit of their innovation, the last kind of products they released. They released this thing called Coils of Madness. Here's a box for it. It's made of the same tough paper board that I described with the other one. It's really compact, and as it got smaller, it's just a bunch of booster boxes. Not booster boxes, booster packs that are in this. Now, I've opened them all. It kind of has this weird clamshell thing. It's a bit hard to open, but yeah. These are the original packs. Yay. But it's just a bunch of, the cards didn't have like a real time frame associated with them. Some of the cards were of older characters that weren't available in the present arc. Some of them were, they were relevant characters that were in the present arc. So yeah, there's Coils of Madness there. And they had a theme of madness in here too, where Coup and the Cultist of Fudo, and there's all kinds of weird stuff happened. They even had like insane versions of like Byushi Kachiko and Togashi Mitsu from the original arc. Talking about the final version of things, I want to show you two things. This is actually, this is the pride and joy of my collection. It is actually worth more than I spent. This is the one product I'm going to keep in mint condition for as long as possible. This is the Atlas of Rokugan. It's the only thing I've seen that has the 20 years of L5R mark on it. And it is, have fun finding one. This thing came with a full color map that comes out to a huge spread. It's just a full detailed atlas of every location they've ever had in the L5R setting, and I like that. I bought this without question when it came out, because I knew it was going to be one of the last products they've ever released. This, I believe, was released in 2015 too, and that was when they sold their game to Fantasy Flight Games. So this is the last RPG book ever produced for L5R, and here's the last card box ever released. It is Evil Portents. It's not a, it's metal now. They went from cardboard to metal. You can literally, hammer someone to death with this thing. These are, I didn't damage that, did I? No, I didn't. I'm not that powerful. Anyway, they're just Celestial Edition style cards, and it comes in a lunchbox style thingamajigger here with, of course, cards. This one actually came with foam in it, though, weirdly enough, so you can protect your stuff, and a little inlet for putting it inside of the box. This is weird because I don't know who was the guy responsible for stamping the front of this box, but they messed up. The belly on this creature here is recessed, and this thing here is like rising out. It's really weird how they chose to stamp that out. But anyway, this is the last box they've ever released as far as sets of cards. And they're nice. They have this weird rivalry system they introduced to a few characters. But, you know, it's the last cards ever produced for L5R before they moved over to Fantasy Flight Games. And this wasn't even like a going out hurrah set. I guess they were designing this, and then they decided to sell the product. So this doesn't feel like it's the last hurrah. They made a set called 20 Festivals that was a full revamp with special cards and everything that was for their Emperor Edition, which came out after the Celestial. Same format though. When I say Celestial Edition, I'm usually meaning everything after Celestial, since it shares that same format of cards. But this is, this came and left. This is the last one they made. So, Legend of the Five Rings, all speaking, is it's still out there. It has a different format. The new card game is different completely from the old card game. The new card game is weird. Where the old card game was about stacking up your cards and building up a kingdom, the old one, your cards will disappear and stuff like that. And the new role-playing game is vastly different. I've heard things about it. I haven't touched it myself, but the things I've heard made me kind of go, maybe one day I'll look into it. But yeah, this game here has been with me since 1996. I didn't come in 1995. I came in the second year it was out. But I really like it, and it was and the things that really brought me, it was the original idea of just the samurai setting. Looking at it overall, people have some criticisms about L5R. Yeah, it's a setting that's designed from a specific perspective. It's made by people who, you know, aren't Japanese, and it has like obvious Japanese influences on the game. But it's not. That's not the point of L5R. The point of L5R is to have fun. I mean, if you ever enjoyed like samurai movies, or if you found anything, you know, involving like even Shogun Total War. You know, if you have ever had fun, you know, dealing with old-fashioned blood and guts Sengoku Jidai or samurai Chanbara, this tied in pretty well to that. So, but as of right now, this is where most of my gaming effort has been, and where most of my collection is actually for the last 20 years. Yeah, I've been gaming for a while. Anyway, thanks for watching.